that burning a few people alive by slow fire, with great ceremony, is an infallible secret for preventing earthquakes. He is, of course, lampooning their ridiculous behavior. In consequence, they had rounded up a Biscayner, B-I-S-C-A-Y-N-E-R, for marrying his godmother. Now, the Catholic Church viewed a godmother as a relative, so that was an incestual relationship. He married his godmother. That's incest. So they got him and 2 Portuguese who, while eating a chicken, had set aside a piece of bacon used for seasoning. Now the footnote in the back, the end note, says the 2 Portuguese men who removed the bacon thereby revealed themselves as converts who still secretly practiced the Jewish religion. Aha! So, you know, that they would allow you to convert or they would kill you. So a lot of people converted but then still didn't believe. So, as it says, practice their religion in secret. After dinner, they came and secured Dr. Pangloss and his pupil Candide, the one for speaking his mind, the other for seeming to approve what he said. They were taken separately to extremely cool apartments where they were never bothered by the glare of the sun. Now, they were not extremely cool apartments, they were dank, cold dungeon cells, right? In the dark. So, that's what that really means. 8 days where they were 8 days afterwards they were each dressed in a San Benito, that's a yellow robe worn by heretics whom the Inquisition condemned to be burned at the stake, and their heads were adorned with paper mitres, M-I-T-R-E-S, which is a cone-shaped cap meant to resemble a bishop's ceremonial headdress. The mitre, or mitre or whatever, and the San Benito worn by Candide were painted with upside-down flames and with devils that had neither tails nor claws. But Dr. Pangloss's devils had both tails and claws, and his flames were upright. Now, in the footnote it says this: the upside-down ones indicate that Candide repented, whereas Pangloss had not repented. In these costumes they marched in procession, and heard a very pathetic sermon, which was followed by an anthem accompanied by bagpipes. Candide was flogged to the cadence of the anthem. The Biscayner and the 2 men who would not eat bacon were burnt, and Pangloss was hanged, though hangings were not a common custom at these solemnities. The same day there was another earthquake, which caused most dreadful havoc. And it says in the footnote, there was indeed a second earthquake on December 21, 1755. Candide, amazed, terrified, confounded, astonished, all bloody and trembling from head to foot, said to himself, "If this is the best of all possible worlds, what are the others like?" Right? How much worse could it get than this? "If I had only been whipped, I could have put up with it, as I did among the Bulgarians. But, oh, my dear Pangloss, my beloved master, thou greatest of philosophers, that ever I should live to see thee hanged, for no reason I can see. O my dear Anabaptist, thou best of men, that it should be your fate to be drowned in the harbor. O Miss Cunegonde, you mirror of young ladies, that it should be your fate to be ripped open." He was making the best of his way from the place where he had been preached to, whipped, absolved, and received benediction, when an old woman approached him and said, "Take courage, child, and follow me." It's the end of chapter 6, on to chapter 7. How the old woman took care of Candide, and how he found the object of his love. Found the object of his love. Candide followed the old woman, though without taking courage, to a decayed house. Remember, because the old woman said, "Take courage." Where she gave him a jar of ointment for his sores, showed him a very neat bed with a suit of clothes hanging up by it, and set some food and drink before him. "There," she said, "eat, drink, and sleep, and may our Blessed Lady of Atocha, A-T-O-C-H-A, and the great Saint Anthony of Padua, and the illustrious Saint James of Compostela take you under their protection." So, the Lady of Atocha is a shrine in Madrid. The patron saint of Portugal and Padua, that's what Saint Anthony of Padua, and the illustrious Saint James of Compostela was, according to tradition, a man who preached in Spain. His shrine at Santiago de Compostela became a renowned place of pilgrimage. So those are all actual things, sort of. So she says, "Let these take you under protection. I'll be back tomorrow." Candide, struck with amazement at what he had seen and what he had suffered, and still more with the charity of the old woman, would have shown his acknowledgment by kissing her hand. "It is not my hand you ought to kiss," said the old woman. "I will be back tomorrow. Rub your back with the ointment, eat, and take your rest." Candide, in spite of his sufferings, ate and slept. The next morning the old woman brought him breakfast, examined his back, and rubbed it herself with another ointment. She returned at the proper time and brought him lunch, and at night she visited him again with supper. The next day she repeated the routine. "Who are you?" said Candide to her. "What god has inspired you with so much goodness? Can I repay you for this charitable assistance?" The good old woman kept a profound silence. In the evening she returned, but without his supper. "Come along with me," she said, "but do not speak a word." She took him under her arm and walked with him about a quarter of a mile into the country, till they came to a lonely house surrounded with moats and gardens. The old woman knocked at a little door, which was immediately opened, and she took him up the pair of back stairs into a small but richly furnished apartment. There she made him sit down on a brocaded sofa. She closed the door and left him. Candide thought he was in a trance. He looked upon his whole life up to this point as a frightful dream, and the present moment a very agreeable one. The old woman soon returned, supporting with great difficulty a young lady, who appeared scarcely able to stand. She was of a majestic mien and stature. Her dress was rich and glittering with diamonds, and her face was covered with a veil. "Take off that veil," said the old woman to Candide. The young man approached, and with a trembling hand took off her veil. What a happy moment! What a surprise! He thought he beheld Miss Cunegonde. He did not behold her. It was she herself! His strength failed him. He could not utter a word. He fell at her feet. Cunegonde fainted upon the sofa. The old woman revived them with alcohol. They recovered. They began to speak. At first they could express themselves only in broken accents. Their questions and answers were alternately interrupted with sighs, tears, and exclamations. The old woman warned them to make less noise, and after this prudent admonition left them together. "Good heavens!" cried Candide. "Is it you? Is it Miss Cunegonde I see before me, alive? Do I find you again in Portugal? Then you have not been ravished? They did not rip you open, as the philosopher Pangloss informed me?" Miss Cunegonde: "Indeed they did." No, I can't keep that up. Indeed they did. But these two accidents do not always prove mortal." "But were your father and mother killed?" "Alas," she answered, "but it is too true," and she wept. "And your brother?" "And my brother also." "And why are you in Portugal? And how did you know I was here? And by what strange adventure did you contrive to have me brought into this house? And how—" He gets cut off. "I will tell you all," replied the lady. "But first you must tell me everything that has happened to you, since the innocent kiss you gave me, and the rude kicking you received because of it." Candide, with the greatest submission, prepared to obey the commands of his fair mistress, and though he was still wrapped in amazement, though his voice was low and tremulous, though his back pained him, yet he gave her a most ingenious account of everything that had happened to him since the moment of their separation. Cunegonde, with her eyes lifted to heaven, shed tears when he related the death of the good Anabaptist James, and of Pangloss, after which she related her adventures to Candide, who lost not one syllable she uttered, and seemed to devour her with his eyes all the time she was speaking. On to chapter 8, the history of Cunegonde.